Mm-hmm.
All right, I think we're in business. Well,
Okay.
Thank you, Sophia. So I'm here with Sofia Segovia. She's the best-selling author of The Murmur of Bees, which was translated into English and released worldwide by Amazon Crossings in April of 2019. This is your second novel and was originally published in Mexico, Latin America, and Spain in 2015. At the time of its debut, it was hailed as the literary discovery of the year and named Novel of the Year by iTunes. Since its release in English, The Murmur of Bees has garnered worldwide praise. Sophia has been named among the most influential women in Mexico. Her newest novel is Peregrinos, which I'd love to hear more about later in this interview, if possible. And you live with your family in the mountains of Monterey, Mexico.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So
I live here, I write here, I come back here every time I have to go away. I have somewhere to come back to.
I bet it's beautiful there. What's the weather like in August in Monterey?
Well, it's been surprising because it's been a very mild summer.
Yeah.
Normally it gets really in the over 100. That's regular here.
Oh.
It's very hot. But now it's been very mild. So it's a good thing. We're at home, still trying to be careful, but with good weather, so that's good.
Yeah, at least you can get outside.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Normally we wouldn't be able to.
Yeah,
not very often.
Well, I have to say The Murmur of Bees was such a beautifully written book. It was so moving. In fact, last night I forced my husband to listen to a passage in it because I was just like, oh, this is such a moving part. I have to read it to you.
Thank you.
So I really fell in love with the characters, and they're still taking a place in my head with Siminopio, Narrator, and of course the whole Morales family. So it was so fascinating to me how the characters are really moving through a time of their lives when there's so much disruption. We've got the 1918 pandemic and the Mexican Revolution. I learned so much about Mexican history in this that I didn't know. That's what I love about historical fiction, is you get a chance to really, learn about other cultures and countries around the world. How long did it take you to research and write this story?
Well, I like to research and write at the same time because I like to think that I don't have all the questions I'm going to have while I write. And so I like discovering the questions. And so I write, and then I stop and say I have to find out more about this. For example, the Bayer aspirin situation. I just found it while I was researching for the 1918 Spanish flu. And so I said, oh, this is interesting. Let me put it in. And things like that I wouldn't find if I started out just researching and then writing the novel. So I find these things that feed my imagination, fit into the story. And I think that's what I find most pleasurable about writing. It's the little surprises I find along the way.
And that's what's fun about reading these kinds of stories, to learn those little things. You're like, oh wow, I had no idea about the Bayer aspirin either. So it's always fun to read those kinds of things.
And also that there's a history behind everything, even a little aspirin. And so
Yes.
I find that amazing. So that's what it's a very like a spiral process I do. I go into writing, going to research, going to thinking about how the research goes into my writing, and then I have more questions, and so I do that until the end.
I love that. I've been doing similar with my own work. I found I got so far into the research that I was not writing. And then once I got started writing, it's true, you start to find, you start like, well, I don't know, what did they eat, in the 16th century or wherever you're researching, the little things that we don't necessarily think about in the huge scope of history. I want to talk about, I think this is such a timely book. It's so interesting to me that this came out in 2015, given this whole pandemic we're living in right now. One of the readers in my book club, her name is Joni, she pulled out a quote and posted it to the group from the book. It was the part where the governor is telling everybody to stay home. He's trying to stop the trains from moving. And we love this line, the miracle would have been if those arrogant fools with the fate of the country in their hands had listened in time to the voices of the experts. Now it was too late. And of course, this really resonated with a lot of us. You know, here in the US, everybody's debating, well, we debate everything. What is pandemic?
Mexico is the same. We're in real trouble because we have arrogant fools guiding our destinies, right? and not well. So yeah, it's been like kind of a shock, really. And I started writing this novel in 2010. This is important because the 2008 epidemic, the N1H1 epidemic started in Mexico. Mexico, I think, did a very good job of letting the world know. The World Health Organization organized the world. The world leaders let themselves be organized. They listened to the experts, and it didn't become a pandemic. And because I think pandemics, we have the resources now to anticipate them, and then in anticipating them, stop them. But what happened there was that at some point we were about to have a pandemic, and it just got stopped. But then I came to realize that revolutions or all other calamities don't happen in a bubble. They can happen at the same time. And so I said, if I want to tell the Mexican Revolution from a very different point of view, because that's what I'm doing, history in Mexico is told with only one point of view. And I think that's very dangerous, and it doesn't include me. And so I said, I'm going to tell the revolution from the northeast part of Mexico, never in the history books. It's very strange. But also, women are not in the history books, and little children. I wanted to get everything in there, and I said, oh, we just went through this big scare, and it happened during the revolution. And the narrative of the revolution never talks about that. So I'm going to do that. And that was very important in my mindset to talk about that. And what I did was going into research. I found that there was not very much information about the Spanish flu in Linares or in Monterey or even in Mexico. We were a country at war. And so I went to look at data from the States, from the world, and I said, no. And in this spiral you go into in the research, I went back to epidemics throughout human history, and what I found out was that they were all the same. They were exactly the same. We're all human. We're all vulnerable, and we always think we're the modern ones. That's what happens. And what I find so amazing was that this is Dr. Cantu walking around Linares, just very dejected, lamenting no medicines, no vaccines, no way to help, just condemn people to death. And we see doctors now doing the same through the social media. No one's just saying, please stay home, please wash your hands, please don't go to church, please stay home. Mm-hmm. Because the medical services are collapsed, because the funerary services are collapsed, and just as they were in 1918. Mm-hmm. And what happened was that I wasn't actually just talking about the flu pandemic, the Spanish flu. I was talking about all pandemics, because they were all the same. When medical and funerary services collapse, the dead go out on the streets, and we've seen that. we're more modern, okay? We have this refrigerated boxes, but the dead are in there. They have no way to get to a decent burial, like a traditional burial. They have to wait in these frozen carts, and so the drivers, maybe they're called Vincent in the States, Vicente in Italy, Vincente. I'm not sure, but they are driving the dead away, and it's been happening. So there's many things that really are parallel. Never thought I would see that in my life. Never wanted to see or live that in my life, but it's true. All pandemics, all epidemics are the same. Even if you're in the third millennium, the 21st century, you think like Dr. Cantu that we've conquered the sciences and the medicine. It's not true. We haven't conquered our humanity, and we're vulnerable to a little virus. So, and we have to understand that we live in the same world, we share the world, and there's no way one country can defeat something like this alone. We're in this together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think borders and should be just ignored and erased, because we have to have one plan for the whole world. If we don't, we cannot do anything about it.
Yeah, because viruses don't care about borders
Okay.
or
No, exactly.
who you are at all. I mean, as we've all
Exactly.
seen, they don't discriminate.
Exactly. They don't care. Languages, skin color, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think. I think we have to get that lesson out of this. It's that there's no way, for example, New York can beat this if there's no national plan. And
Mm-hmm.
there's no way Monterey can beat this, because we did a very good job at the beginning, my state. But if the country and our neighbors are not doing the same kind of job, you cannot be alone in this.
Mm-hmm.
You have to work together, be organized, listen to the experts.
Yeah.
Back to the to the beginning.
Yeah, it's just, it's so interesting how much the world changes and yet doesn't change.
The more things change, the more things stay the same.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Well, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about Siminopio and the bees. I'm always intrigued by books that where an author weaves in animals and to kind of add some of that magical realism to a story, which you certainly did in this story with, there's the coyote to who you compared to Espiricueta. Did I say the name right?
Espiricueta.
Thank you. And then the lion, of course, in reference to Francisco Sr. And to a certain extent, did you compare him to Siminopio too with the lion, or is that more of a Francisco Sr.?
No, I think Siminopio obviously was thinking on his own terms.
Okay.
Francisco did tell them, you have to be you have to be a lion or whatever. But he never thought on about his godfather in those terms.
Okay.
And that was his mistake, right? Because he never saw what was there and what happened.
It's rare.
But the animals, I have something with animals. I think animals can explain fables, explain life. So, and that's something also we all share, fables in any language, in any country. And Peregrinos has them too, and Huracan has them too. I'm not sure why, but I cannot get away from animals.
Well, I love it. And I thought it was so clever to use insects with bees in this story. And I'd love to hear what drove that part, how you came up with the idea and what really how did you nurture that idea?
Well, I'm an author who doesn't plan very much ahead. I want to start with an old man getting up from his lazy boy and driving to Linares. And when he gets to Linares, the story ends. That's what I wanted to do. Of course, I was the revolution was the context. Linares was the context. I did know a bit more. I wanted to have family in there, but Francisco Jr. was supposed to be the main character, except in the first paragraph I found Siminopio because I wanted to place someone to take care of Francisco. That I knew. And so Siminopio became the nucleus of the story. I'm not sure I would call him exactly the protagonist because Francisco is there and he shares a lot because he's the narrator. But he really becomes like everything happens around Siminopio. Even when we're looking at different characters, we're looking at them while they're thinking about Siminopio, or Siminopio has something to do with that part of the story. And so Siminopio became this huge character from the first paragraph. And I thought, okay, I just got a little baby boy just lying there in the evening. He might die. So I need someone to take care of him while Nana Reja goes back for him. And so I thought, well, lions and tigers and bears, oh my, no. I cannot do that. And we do have them here in our mountain lions. And no, I said, no. Okay, night bugs, no, I don't like night bugs. And then I said, bees. Bees are communal. They take care. They keep warm. They keep each other warm. They know how to take care of each other. And so I thought, yeah, I think it's believable, and that they would come down or they would come out from wherever they came out and cover the baby boy and keep him safe. And they're clean. They're clean insects too, and that's where it started. But then I said, of course, if I'm talking about a history of what happened here, of how some people had to tear their crops down to plant new crops. And of course I have to have bees because orange trees cannot subsist without bees. But because they didn't want to leave, the bees didn't want to leave the boy, they stayed. And I said, of course they have to stay, because they're going to be crucial for that storyline. And in fact, they became my way of taking the power away from a historical precedent, who said that since he had some orange trees in his land, he would write some little exemption from the law that said, if you have fruit trees in your land, nobody can take it away from you. And that's what got our citrus region here started.
Yeah.
And it's still going because the land reform didn't destroy that.
Interesting.
So it was like so ugly. History can be so ugly, and I think that's very ugly, and it happens here in Mexico more often than you would think. Those little tidbits of history that you say, no, it's like more magical than real or whatever. And then I said, the bees are going to be my medium to take away that power, because the bees are the ones who want to have that sort of life for this land. And so that's what they became. And with Siminopio, Nana Reja, the bees became this triangle of creation, very, very much rooted in nature. And that's what they are. They are like, I sort of started thinking that I was writing like a mythology for the northeast of Mexico.
And yet it still is believable for whatever reason, because that's the beauty of magical realism, right? And you did that very well. I loved that. I thought that made the book so different and memorable, for sure. You touched on the narrator and what this is one of the questions I got from Sarah in our book club. She's curious about your choice of the multiple narrators. She says, while the story is told in first person from Francisco Jr.'s point of view, it does switch. Each chapter alternates between points of view. She was wondering why you decided to take that approach.
It started with an old man who doesn't have all his memories, or thinks he doesn't have all his memories. And then I needed other points of view. So I needed this first person narrator, Francisco Jr. as an old man, and then the third person narrator, omniscient, knows everything. But what happens is that what is Siminopio? I cannot talk about the narrator without talking about Siminopio. Siminopio keeps looking at life like a bee. He takes this look at life in like a bubble, and he wants to teach Francisco Jr. to look at life as a sphere, from all points of view, to understand everything with total empathy, with total recall, even if you're not there, with all this knowledge. That's what Siminopio is. He is a bee. Bees know when they fly, they see more beyond the horizon. So that's looking into the future, right? So Siminopio has no qualities that bees don't in real life. But what he tried to teach Francisco, and Francisco Jr. says he failed because I was such an active little boy, didn't pay attention. But what he realizes on the road is that he did, and that he has his own memories, and that no, he's actually finding the other points of view that would complete the story and make it like a sphere. And at the end, these two narrators clash, because he realizes that he got to Linares, wouldn't want to go further on the story. I don't remember anymore. He goes, I think it's chapter 69, 70, I'm not sure. But he says, okay, I'm gonna stop. Can't remember anymore from here. And the other narrator says, oh no, you do, and you have to. And so he incorporates both narratives, and the first person narrator become one. And at the end, we have one who is first person omniscience. So it was like a very big risk I took. I didn't know if it would gel at the end. And what I found was like this, it paid out. Okay, I don't know.
Paid off,
yeah. It paid off.
Yeah.
And I found that it was like one of the greatest pleasures of writing this novel was this big experiment, and also integrating the narrator with Siminopio's purpose.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I mean, and what is creativity without taking a few risks, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay. So another question I had was, so we have a lot of writers in the She Persists book club, which I think is, we've got poets and writers of all.
That's wonderful.
And so I had a question as far as your writing rituals. Do you ever find yourself stuck writing or having like a writer's block? And then if you do you have a writing ritual or something that you do regularly that helps you break through some of those obstacles?
I've been stuck, but I've been stuck, for example, when I wrote Francisco Sr.'s death. I had to step away for a week. I think it was like a week, because I was in such shock. It was very painful for me because I loved that character. And then it was such an immersive experience to write it as I wrote it. And I did have to stop. And then also at some other point when I said, I need to compress time. And I said, I'm a novelist. I'm not a historian. I can do it. But I did have to write Well, my notes you read at the end, this a creative license, I wrote it for me. It was not like a big certificate. You can do whatever you want. I did that. But then I don't believe in the writer's block, in the white page block or whatever, because I work in a very, it works for me. This is what I think. If we're writing a marathon, it's going to be a long run, but you don't get to the line, to the start line, to the start line.
Oh, start line.
Without warming up. And so what I think it's every day is the start of a new marathon, every day. And so every day I don't start in the blank spot. I start reviewing, editing, rereading what I did the day before, maybe even many chapters before, and I get back, when I get to the blank spot, to the white spot, I'm already there. And that's what I think works for me.
Yeah. There was something you had said that really struck me, and now I can't remember what it was. All of it was good. It was something about Francisco. Oh well, it's skipped out of my head now.
Francisco's death?
Yes, thank you. You talked about what an intense scene that was to write, and I have to tell you, that's the passage I read to my husband last night, because I can tell I loved how you took your time with it, because so often, you can read death scenes and you kind of just blow through it. But it was one of those passages where even as a reader, you just wanted to slow down, and it both, there's so much love and tragedy and heartbreak all in that one spot. I could see where you'd have to take a break after writing that.
Well, it's that scene, it's Lupita's scene, it's Beatrice's scene when she's desperate. Mm-hmm. And it's very meaningful to me, and thank you for mentioning that, because I mean about Francisco's death, but what I said was at that point in 2010, something changed here in Mexico. We were like, especially here, I live in Monterey, and we had so much peace. We have this huge sprawling city, 4 million people, but such peace, so peaceful. And then something changed, and we started having this narco violence just invaded us. Our life changed, and I was writing this book, and all these statistics came out in the papers every day. More women dead, more men dead, just thrown in the side of the road. Many mothers without their kids are just looking for them because they don't know if they live, they die, whatever. And so what I did with Lupita, with Francisco Sr. and Beatriz was to write them in a way that they cannot be anonymous anymore. They cannot be indifferent to me. I mean, I cannot be indifferent to them. Mm-hmm. And their pain matters, and their story matters. And yeah, when I wrote Lupita, well, I do have to realize that this is a universal problem, violence against women. But in Mexico, we have it's very ingrained. And so I have to say today, 10 women die every day because they're women, and it's terrible. Mm-hmm. And so I wrote Lupita in that way. And I was writing every woman who has ever died because she was a woman. They didn't want to say yes, said no, right. Walk the other way, look the other way. And then Francisco, all these men who died just because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they just laid down to die anywhere, and you just know the next day they died, but you don't know what went through their minds and their hearts. And then Beatriz, in Mexico, we have this legend, the whipping lady, the whipping woman, Well, it's very old legend. It's a woman that goes around just crying for her kids, and the really it was very frightening because what everybody knows, and maybe you're not a kid, but it was very frightening that she would confuse you with her kid or whatever. But what, as an adult, you know, it's that she is a woman who killed her kids. And so she keeps lamenting for eternity. And she goes around crying for her kids. And Beatriz goes into this mindset that she becomes the crying woman, the weeping lady. And what I realized was that Mexico, and maybe the world, is full of weeping ladies. They don't know where their kids are, children who disappear. And so it was very painful to me, and I did want to take the time and just tighten the notch a bit, because I also was taking a risk going into so deep into a mind that just seems so, I don't know, lost because of pain, right? Francisco because of his shock, but Beatriz because she is in shock because the husband is dead, but she has a missing son.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You could feel that terror, and any mother would understand that. Could definitely relate to something like that.
Yeah, that's
sure.
also, it happens anywhere, but it's been happening since then here in Mexico, and I just wanted to just underscore that.
Yeah, it's interesting how even things going on in your day-to-day life can feed a novel, even a historical fiction novel.
Yeah, I think we novelists and maybe poets too, we have to have one foot in fiction and imagination, but the other foot has to be in real life, because you have to know that sometimes what you're writing about in the past has real world present connotations or dangers or whatever. And I think this novel also, I was writing about 100 years ago, but I was talking to people today. And yeah, I am a writer who keeps very abreast of what is going on in the world.
Yeah.
And I think that if I cannot write like a feminist woman in El Murmullo, in the Murmur of Bees, of course, Beatriz is not
right
feminist, but she is the precursor. She's a very strong woman.
Yeah.
And she goes into this vengeance is not for women and that type of thing, this new attitude that, well, feminism has had its precursors, right? So I said, this is kind of the first feminist here. So I am talking about and wanting, and I want to be real.
Right.
To the context, historical context, geographical context, religious context too. But I did want to say, us strong women today, we come from somewhere. We're not just like a spontaneous generation or something like that. We come from somewhere.
Yeah, it didn't happen in a vacuum.
Exactly.
Yeah, we stand on the shoulders of many, many women before us. I strongly believe that as well. Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about, well, we have one more question from one of my book club members, Peggy. She would like to know, the translator of the Murmur of Bees did a wonderful job, and you definitely talk about that in the book or at the end. You talk about his bios included. Is he going to be is he going to translate any of your other books? Are there plans? When
I did tell Amazon Crossing because they wanted Peregrinos. And I did say, okay, only if Simon Bruni wants to work with me again, because we did such a good job. I mean, he's the translator, but I was able to help because my English is better even written or read than spoken, especially if I'm not too on top of my spoken English. But I was able to help him because he realized that he was a Brit who learned Spanish in Spain, trying to translate a Mexican Spanish into American English. So it was like a four-way
a little
translation.
Yeah.
It was an amazing, amazing experience to look into that world of translation. I don't like it much. I mean, before this, because sometimes you read a book and say, what?
Right.
And you, even if you don't know the language, you know it's wrong. Something is wrong, or it doesn't match, or it doesn't, I don't know, something happens. And what I thought is that he got it. He got the rhythm, and he got the spirit, and he got the sense of humor, and the sense of Mexican sense of humor, because that's also something. And I thought he transmitted it so well that sometimes when he used to send me his advances or the manuscript.
Right.
For me to read, and I got lost in the translation. In translation, I mean, I just forgot that I was reading Spanish or English or whatever, and and so now he's translated already Peregrinos.
Okay.
The title for that is Tears of Amber, because we couldn't go with a direct translation, because peregrinos means pilgrims, and we didn't want to do that. It's a different connotation. My peregrinos. Yeah, it's nothing religious, but it's a search, a very, very deep search for peace, right? But then Tears of Amber. And he translated it already, and we're in this process of editing back and forth with the editors. And I'm so glad that he invited me into his process, because I've learned a lot.
Oh, I bet you did. Yeah, it was incredible. Well, we're looking forward to seeing more of your books coming out, hopefully translating it into English. That would be wonderful, so we can continue. I wish I knew Spanish. I need to take some classes, I think, so that I don't have to miss out. But before I let you go, why don't you tell us how readers can stay in touch with you or can follow your journey, so we know about new releases and any information about what you have going on.
Of course, there's Goodreads, and you can find me in Goodreads, but you can find me in Instagram and Facebook as Sofia Segovia Autora. All together, Autora in Spanish. And then I have Facebook, Twitter, and it's M. Sofia Segovia.
Okay.
At M. Sofia Segovia. Yeah, and I do answer, and then I have you could write me an email, of course, at sofiasegovia@sofiasegovia.com.
Okay.
So it's easy.
All right.
And I do respond.
I know. I was so thrilled to have a response from you when I emailed you. So thank you so much for taking some time with me today.
Thank you, Krista.
Lots of luck with your next book.
Thank you. Thank you. And you too.
Thank
with your
you.
novel.
Thank you.
When are you going to finish, do you think?
Oh, yeah, you were talking about a marathon. This book is definitely a marathon. I'm hoping to be finished with the manuscript by the end of the year. I'm about halfway through now, so getting there.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And say hi to everybody for me.
I will do that. I'm going to be posting the video to the group so they'll get to see you. Take care of you.
You too, Krista.
All right.
Bye.